Thank you. Great to see everybody. You might wonder why I'm up here as one of the few non-lawyers in the room. But in 2003, I was lucky enough to be selected by the Aspen Institute to be a Henry Crown Fellow. And it was a great honor, and I joined 19 other young people who had sort of had early accomplishments in gathering in Aspen and learning values-based leadership. Now, imagine when you get 19 really competitive, high-achieving, under the age of 45 people together, and you're asked to decide the class name. Well, there was a lot of power and competition, and one of my classmates said, "We should be the love class." And there was a lot of snickering by these sort of titans of business until we understood where that person was coming from. You might guess that person was Cory Booker. Yeah. It makes total sense now for any of us who know Cory from the community, from work he's done. Cory, at his core, embodies love. Love is at the center of all he does. In 2006, when some local youths were threatening his life, really asking for people to literally kill Cory Booker, what did Cory Booker do? He asked the prosecutors, instead of punishing these youths, to let him personally mentor them every week to get them on the right track. And he did that. I knew Cory when he was city councilman. He lived in a tent in the street for a period of time to clear the streets of the drug dealers and those that were infesting the community he believed in. And when he became mayor, he lived in the same part of town with the people he represented. And as senator, he continues to live among the people he represents and with the people he believes in. With love at his center, he is seeking the highest office in the nation, and he's been very clear that part of his platform is love. Now, why am I talking about love at a justice-related event? Well, if you think about justice at its center, it's about fairness. And to be fair, you have to be empathetic, and you have to be able to walk in the shoes of other people. And you have to know what someone else is experiencing in order to approach their situation with kindness and with love. So there is no one that I think is more deserving of the national award from this institute for his work in social justice, but my dear friend, the Honorable Cory Booker.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. So, you all have no idea, when Mildred Crump stands and gives me applause, it's like one of the best, this is literally one of the best moments of my life. Look, I am so grateful. First of all, I want to thank Ryan. I would not be here if it wasn't for him and making this night work. His leadership is extraordinary. Doug Eakley was one of my first friends coming out of law school, and he was incredible. Him with Ted and Nina Wells. I would never have connected with somebody who's become a role model in many ways, which is Alan Lowenstein, so thank you both for that. I just want to give a little bit of love to two of my best co-workers I've ever had, Roz Baraka and Bob Menendez. Bob and I and the mayor, if there's any two people I know who have actually lived a life about justice, it's those two individuals. This is a little ridiculous to me because you all are giving me an honor when really the lessons I've learned in Newark were hard and tough. I learned from a woman on the 5th floor of the projects who, when I came to Newark with too much of a high sense of self-regard as a Yale law student, I will never forget knocking on this woman's door with this thinking that I was going to come and try to save the neighborhood. And she literally opened the door and looks at me and basically says to me, "Boy, you need some saving." And she taught me the hardest lesson, that change doesn't come ever from the top, it comes from the grassroots up. People who think that Lincoln freed the slaves are insulting the fields of this nation that are still watered with the blood of our ancestors. People who think that somehow we got, the right to vote for women because of a bunch of men on the Senate floor that got together one day and said, "Hey fellas, let's give women the right to vote," don't understand that change has never come from Washington, it comes to Washington. Anybody who looks around the city about the transformations that are happening here, do not forget that the change we're seeing now in Newark is because of so many people who never gave up on this city, who had a defiant love, a chip on their shoulder about this city. In fact, I still remember that same woman, Miss Jones, who took me to Martin Luther King Boulevard around the same time I was working with Alan Lowenstein and said to me, "What do you see around here?" And I described the neighborhood that I still live in today. And I just talked about the problems, the crack house, and she walks away from me saying, "You can't help me." And I ran after her and said, "What are you talking about?" And she goes, "Boy, you need to understand that the world you see outside of you is a reflection of what you have inside of you. If you see problems, darkness, and despair, that's all there's ever going to be. But if you're one of those stubborn people who every time you open your eyes, you see hope, possibility, you see love in the face of God, then you can be someone who helps me make change." We are here right now seeing the things we're seeing because of the visionaries that came before us. And when Anne talks to me about love, it is not a sentiment. Love is not a nice feeling that you get. Love is sacrifice. Love is service. And when it comes to this organization, I think Cornel West said it best. What does love look like in public? It looks like justice. And we who swear this oath in this nation, that we are a country of liberty and justice for all, we should all be cognizant that those words are still aspirational. Because we have so many heartbreaking realities. From Shahad Smith that was murdered with an assault rifle on my block last year, to kids in this city and all around America who still drink out of plastic bottles because we have 3,000 jurisdictions in America where children have more than twice the blood lead levels in Flint, Michigan. To a criminal justice system that still shackles pregnant women, that still puts children in solitary confinement, that still has millions of people that cycle through our criminal justice system every single year, hundreds of thousands every single year for doing things that 2 of the last 3 presidents admitted to doing. And so I am grateful for this organization that understands if you connect to the grassroots, if you bring people together, if you organize folks, if you elevate the dignity of everybody, that's how change is really made. I'm proud Bob and I passed some big legislation of recent, something that I'm really proud of is the First Step Act, that literally, I brought a guy to the State of the Union address last year who was liberated from prison for a life sentence for having crack cocaine that weighed less than a baseball. It is testimony to the work that still has to be done, but we're going to do it from the grassroots up. And so I'm going to end just by saying to everybody here that my father, before he died, was with me in Newark and still bemoaned the fact about the challenges. He said, "I feel like the kids basically that are born today just like me, poor black to a single mom." He said, "I worry that they'd have a better chance of making it if they were born in 36 today because we didn't have, his generation didn't have mass incarceration. They didn't have the homicide levels we have right now where black men like me, 6% of the nation's population, but make up over 55% of the homicide victims." And for me, we have a comeuppance in our generation, and that's why this organization is so essential, and the work of Ryan and his team inspire me every day, is because this country is still falling short, and in some ways we're losing ground. And so the thing I ask to leave you with is, at a time of another tragedy in another generation when King was slain, right there where he was slain, they wrote words from Scripture, which are Joseph's brothers' words, before they grabbed Joseph with his coat of many colors and threw him in a well to die. And they actually chose to write the words of Joseph's brothers where King was slain, and these are the words. It's a challenge to us. It says, right there at the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee, it says, "Behold, here cometh the dreamer. Let us slay him and see what becomes of the dream." Our generation has to answer that question. And we can't rely on the folks who came before us and their daring, defiant love. It's our turn in this generation to stand up with a chorus of conviction to say, I'm taking responsibility for the dream. I'm going to dream America anew. Because we have a lot of work to do. There are heartbreaking realities out there, and if your heart is not broken, if America hasn't broken your heart, you don't love her enough. This is the moment that our generation has to take responsibility for the dream and do the same kind of sacrifice and service necessary to make the dream come true. And if we do that, I promise you, we can get to a place that justice does roll down like water, righteousness like a mighty stream. We can get to the place where we are who we say we are, a nation of liberty and justice for all. We can get to a place that honors our ancestors and ensures that the children of tomorrow grow up in a country that is who we say we are. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Cory Booker, recipient of the National Justice Award 2019.